What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to LilBigMan Gaming, bringing you that review for Monday Night Raw. So we had some weirdness and some just stupid segments, but let's break this down to what I think of this particular episode of Monday Night Raw. So they started off with Seth Rollins. He came out and basically said, cut a promo saying there was a party out here. They was in Buffalo, New York, and he didn't want to party alone. So he invited Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes came down to the ring, and they both basically cut promos on each other why they think they're the best. And, Seth Rollins basically said he's the best, but the only reason why he lost to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania was because he didn't have time to prepare for Cody Rhodes. He didn't even know he was fighting Cody Rhodes. He was just a surprise opponent from Mr. McMahon. And Cody Rhodes, he talked about Cody Rhodes' admirations to be Seth Rollins said the WWE champion. Instead of saying the WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, Undisputed Heavyweight Champion, he just said, he called it the WWE Champion. So I'm like, yeah, kind of sort of figured that because it's kind of like people been debating about whether or not they're going to end the brand split or not, and most people are saying no. Most sources are saying no because Fox and USA doesn't want that, because you guys got to remember that I'm getting off subject here, but you guys got to remember that when they ended that brand split for that short amount of time, that was the worst time to be a WWE fan because that was the worst programming ever. SmackDown was an afterthought. Like nothing ever happened on SmackDown that was good. Anything story worthy was only on Raw. SmackDown was just a show where we just get repeats of matches, and it was nothing worthwhile. It was like it got to the point where me as a fan, who's been a long-term fan since 1994, 95, that was the first time I didn't want to watch SmackDown. Like I stopped watching SmackDown. Like I would only watch Raw in the pay-per-views. I wouldn't tune into SmackDown unless it was some type of special anniversary episode of SmackDown. And yeah, nobody wants that. But back on subject. So Cody and Seth, they going back and forth, cutting their promos about who the better person is. And, Cody Rhodes start upstaging Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins said, you know what, don't do that again. And because he was starting to get, a little ticked off. Cody Rhodes did it again. And Seth Rollins said, you know what, this promo was about to go in a different direction. I was about to say how much I respect you, your family, your brother, your father, everything y'all did in the WWE. But because you did that now, he doubled down on the fact that, hey, you wouldn't have beat me if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't know who I was facing at WrestleMania, and I'm better than you and your family because I have been to the mountaintop. Nobody in your family has ever been to the mountaintop of being world champion. So this broke down to to Cody Rhodes admitting that, yeah, you've been to the mountaintop 4 times while I haven't. Nobody has in my family. But he said, he involved the crowd. The crowd chanted for Cody Rhodes, saying that they think Cody Rhodes is better than Seth Rollins. This prompted Seth Rollins to basically make a challenge to Cody Rhodes for later on today as the main event. He challenged Cody Rhodes to face a mystery opponent of his choosing. And Cody Rhodes happily accepted. That would end that segment. So then we get to the first match of the night, which is Sasha Banks versus Naomi. I mean, I said Precious Naomi. Sasha Banks and Naomi. Sorry about that. Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan for the women's tag team championship. And for the most part, this match was actually good. It was decent storytelling. Stuff happened. They actually, both teams worked well together. Both teams had some good tag team offense. Now, there was a slight little hiccup, little botch. It was a little botch in this match where Rhea hit the riptide on Naomi, and then Naomi, I guess Naomi the pin was supposed to get broken up by Sasha Banks, but it looked like it was supposed to get broken up where Sasha was supposed to use like the backstab with the springboard, Liv Morgan on top of the pin, on top of it to break it up. But Liv, like there was so much, like it looked like they was in a rush that Liv kind of like fell out of position as they was going for it. So Sasha had to hurry up and hit it before the 3 count, because as we know, or if you don't know, the referees and stuff are now told that they have to count pinfalls and count out even if it's not part of the plan. Like, say that a match it was supposed to end in a count out, they are instructed to still do the count out, even to make it look natural, even though that's not the plan finish. So if she wouldn't have broken up, either Naomi would have had to kick out, or they would have had to take the pinfall, and it would have been like, oh, now they the champions. But most likely Naomi would have had to kick out in case since the move was botched. But Sasha got there on time. Sasha and Naomi end up winning here, and then the bigger story came to where what we all thought was going to happen. Rhea turned on Liv and beat her up and basically turned heel. We got a Sonya Deville promo afterwards. Her coming out explaining her abuse of power, whether or not she thinks she abused her power, I should say. She talked about whether or not she abused her power. So she said, first and foremost, I'm a competitor, and she was forced into this position of being the official. She said so she had to figure out, she had to use the opportunity best she could to figure out how to get back to being an actual competitor. And that she pretty much was not apologetic for her actions. This would bring out Bianca Belair. By the way, I want to point out that King was basically was on commentary, and he was full heel in his commentary role this week. Where last week he was kind of tweening between heel and face stuff. Now he was just full on heel, like he was just like Corey Graves basically. So Bianca Belair comes out, and she confronts Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville reminds her that right now she's not a competitor. She's a WWE official, and she can't put her hands on her. Bianca like, why don't we just have this match right here, right now, tonight, so that way I can put my hands on you. But Sonya Deville said no, she's not going to have her championship opportunity in the state and in the town of Buffalo. But she said we would do it next Monday in your hometown, Nashville, Tennessee. I guess that's where they're going to be at next week. And Bianca accepted. And later on the night it was made official. But Deville started taunting Bianca about how quickly she loses championships. This would cause Bianca to put her in the KOD, but then Sonya Deville with the mic in her hand was yelling at Bianca to put her down because she would make sure that she get fined and lose her championship. And Bianca hesitated, thought about it, and got mad, and she did put her down, but she forcefully put her down. It was almost like she basically threw her down. Like she put her down, but she was like, yeah. So that ended that, and then that was the end of the promo. But it continued. That was the end of the in-ring promo, let's just say. And the last bit of this part came when Sonya Deville went backstage to ask Adam Pearce whether or not he was going to give her a fine. and what was going to happen. He did confirm that that a fine was indeed put on Bianca Belair for what she did, and that he already took care of it, and that it was a fine, and not a fine, but that she should be worried about her own internal investigation, because he revealed to Sonya that the higher ups are taking into matter of internal investigations on her actions as a WWE official. Then Bianca Belair came, and we found out that the fine was just basically $1, with much to the dismay of Sonya Deville. We got a squash match for Veer Mahan, where he was going up against just an enhancement talent, which was just his opponent was just a local talent from Buffalo, and Veer Mahan basically won that in a great fashion with great dominance and power. He actually got some cheers from the crowd, so he got to actually pander to the crowd a little bit. We got the Kevin Owens show promo where he do the lie detector test on Ezekiel, which turned on how we basically thought it was gonna go. I didn't know they was gonna have Chad Gable in it. That was kind of cool, having Chad Gable as the person who conducted the lie detector test, and he actually knew how to do it. Like, he knew that to calibrate the lie detector test, he had to ask him to answer the question truthfully and then just honestly. But it was, I will say I did like the part where he when he told Ezekiel to answer the question dishonestly. So I think the question was, is tonight Monday Night Raw, and he said no. And Kevin was like, see, he's lying. He was like, yeah, Kevin, I know he's lying. I asked him to lie. And for that brief moment, Ezekiel, Chad, and Kevin just sitting there, they smiling at each other like they want to laugh because they actually got to him. They kind of broke them a little bit, so it was funny. And Chad Gable actually did laugh a little bit, but he caught his composure. And you can see Kevin just looking like, all right, then carry on. He told him to carry on, but you can see he's smiling. He wanted to laugh because he knows it was just funny as hell what they just did. But then they got back serious, and then they did the whole lie detector test, where of course somehow, because Ezekiel obviously was slowing his heart rate down, he was able to answer everything truthfully about who he was. Kevin Owens got mad, kicked Chad Gable out the ring, had an argument with Ezekiel, which led to Ezekiel announcing that he's decided to have his first match on Monday Night Raw. He did do like a walk with Elias thing, but instead of saying walk with Elias, who wants to hear Ezekiel speak? Which is not very catchy. Not very catchy at all. But he did end up having a match, because the promo went into the next match, which was Ezekiel versus Chad Gable, because Chad Gable would attack Ezekiel to end the promo after Kevin Owens, basically almost like he was threatening him, but then he just walked away, and then Ezekiel got attacked from behind by Chad Gable. Commercial break. Now we into the third match, which was Ezekiel versus Chad Gable. This was a good match. It was okay. I'm glad to see Elias / Ezekiel back. Back in the ring and whatnot. But I don't like. This was unnecessary to have this type of finish for here, because the storyline didn't call for this. But I guess you could say that they did it to protect Ezekiel, I guess, and Chad Gable. But what I'm getting at is the match ended via DQ because Otis, who I thought was surprisingly missing from this segment, came out and basically attacked Ezekiel from behind, causing a DQ finish. Like I said, I don't think this was very necessary. I don't think it was necessary at all for them to went this route. But Ezekiel won the match via DQ. We got a recap of what's been going on between RK Bro and the Usos. Then we got the RK Bro versus the Street Profits. This was a good match. This was a good match. It did what it needed to do and told a story. And the story it told here was that when it looked like RK Bro had the upper hand, the Montez Force or the Street Profits was going like this, and all of a sudden the Usos music hit, so they got distracted. The Street Profits took advantage of it and got the win here. Then they cut a promo saying who could have done that, basically saying that, basically admitting to the fact that they played a trick on RK Bro to get the victory here, thus I guess solidified them as heels. There was an Edge promo that he basically explained, them explaining why they targeted AJ Styles and why they are doing what they're doing. And Edge basically, for Edge, it was basically like he did everything he could to return because everybody kept asking him, like the fans, and he said all the fans kept begging him to return. So he did all he could to return, and when he finally did, he mentioned how people was calling him part-timers, stealing opportunities, and basically saying, what this and that about him being back. And which I had to think about. I was like, he actually telling the truth, because actually were people saying that. And then for Damian Priest, he said that the reason why he's doing what he's doing, or Edge spoke for Damian, saying that there for Damian, saying that he was at last year's WrestleMania, he was with Bad Bunny, right? I think that was last year. That was last year's WrestleMania, right? He was with Bad Bunny and stuff, and he shared the spotlight with Bad Bunny. And then he pointed out how Bad Bunny would have been squashed on the floor with, they would have wiped the floor with him if it wasn't for Damian Priest. And then this year he didn't even have. This year it wasn't even on WrestleMania. He lost his championship and he felt like the crowd turned on him. So they basically said that they taking their own destiny to their own hands. Ed said this has always been him. The seeds has already been planted. With the fact that he was part of the Ministry of Darkness, the Brood, and saying that those seeds will be watered by our tears when they beat up our favorites. This would continue into a backstage retort from AJ Styles. They asked AJ Styles what did he think about what Edge and them had to say, and he was saying, he made fun of them for being like the judge and the bailiff and all that type of stuff. And then the lights would flicker. He would tell the interviewer that she should go, only to be attacked by Edge and Damian Priest, and what looks like AJ suffering an injury. So then we get to one of the last matches of the night, which was Austin Theory versus Finn Balor for the United States Championship. I'm gonna get this short and sweet because I already knew what was gonna happen here. But this, otherwise, this was a good match. It was only predictable, but that was the only wrong thing about it, was that it was a predictable match, but it was a good match. Nonetheless, some good near falls, some good moves, some good workovers. But like I said, it was predictable because in the end, I knew that Austin Theory was going to win because Finn Balor's been on the losing streak. He's only won a couple of matches after being champion, after becoming the United States champion, and then he went on a big losing streak. So I figured it was going to continue here because they've been pushing Austin Theory hard. And they did. Austin Theory won, and he became your new United States champion. Then you got all the heels who came out the locker room, the whole Austin Theory up, and Vince McMahon to hold his hand up in his approval of him winning the United States champion. Then we got the 24/7 wedding promo, where R-Truth was basically was marrying both Reggie and Dana and Akira and Tamina. The segment pretty much was useless and boring to me. I didn't really care for it, but I did get some chuckles out of it. So it kind of worked. It kind of did something because it got me to chuckle a little bit. But yeah, it chuckled at the end when I knew that everybody was going to try to pin somebody for the championship. And we saw so many people become champions. You saw Dana Brooke lose it to Reggie. Then Reggie lose it to Tamina. Then Tamina lose it to Akira. Then Akira lose it back to Dana. And then R-Truth carried Dana and off into the sunset. And basically the end of that segment. Like I said, not really, wasn't really too, I didn't really like it too much. It did make me laugh at how the ending went, even though the ending was kind of predictable here as well. Then we got a Bobby Lashley promo where he got a message from MVP earlier tonight, still talking about how he didn't want to save the spotlight at WrestleMania, but that it says he was the one who made Bobby the almighty Bobby Lashley and led him to the championships. He is going. What can he do for? What do you think he could do for Omos? And they challenged Bobby Lashley to an arm wrestling match for next week, for which Bobby Lashley accepts. Then we get to the main event, which was Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens, which was basically Seth Rollins came out and revealed that his mystery opponent was Kevin Owens. And they basically had a good match. They some good workovers. Cody looked good. Kevin Owens looked good. The end of the match came. I wish it would have went down as a pinfall, but basically the end of the match came where Cody had flipped Kevin Owens over and he smacked his back on the edge of the apron, and basically was on the outside getting counted out, and he was trying to get himself up to get back into the ring when overzealous Seth Rollins, who was frustrated at this point, kept yelling at him to get back in the ring, and he actually told him to get your fat sit back in the ring, and Kevin Owens was like, what did you say? And Kevin Owens was like, man, this is your match. And just walked off. Took the count. Cody Rhodes won the match by countout. But Seth Rollins would get the last laugh as Cody Rhodes was celebrating on the apron, who was displeased with the way he won. And Seth Rollins would push Cody Rhodes off the ring post, and pretty much like he might have hurt his ankle on Cody. And then Seth Rollins ended the show on top. Overall, this episode was decent. It wasn't bad. This is part of the problem, like I said, was there was no once again, there's no furthering storyline. We didn't even have the Usos on Raw. This was a typical Raw every match except for the Sasha Banks match was a Raw versus Raw Superstar match. But the thing here was we had no champion on the show. This is what I mean by why they can't be a brand split, because without a champion on Raw, it looks dull. It looks weird. Where's the main champion? Where's the main champion storyline? Everything was by everybody except for the main champion. That's because Roman wasn't on the show. He wasn't on SmackDown and he wasn't on Raw, so it looked weird. That's why I said don't end the brand split. Just have Roman lose. Even if you don't take all the titles from him, just have him lose the WWE Championship, or make him just have it where he's only going like they did. They only have him defend one title, like they did with Becky Lynch. How she just defended each title separately, and she only lost the SmackDown Championship and was still the Raw Women's Champion. Like, you could do that with Roman, but you can't just have one champion now because it don't look right. But as for my score, I say this episode of Monday Night Raw gets a 7 out of 10. And I actually wanted to give it a 6, but I give it a 7 because it wasn't all bad except for one. If it was one more thing that was bad on the show, it would have got a 6. And the only thing I said that was bad was the whole 24/7 stuff. But everything else was good. That's why I gave it a 7 instead of a 6. But yeah, it gets a 7 out of 10. Big ups. And let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw. And if you enjoyed this video, then hit that button right there in the upper right corner for all of my WWE reviews. And if you enjoyed this video so much you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button, do all those great things because I enjoy your feedback and the feedback you give me. And the feedback you give me helps me do this job even better. And as always, hit one of these videos for more of my amazing content that go nowhere. Gameplay coming your way. Peace out.